right, 4 o'clock, St. Cloud Metropolitan Transit Commission Board officially called to order, and let the record reflect that all members of the commission are here. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
No.
Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved to second discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. The agenda is adopted. Consent agenda items 5 through 8.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Open forum. Is there anyone here for the open forum or online? Nobody? Then we will move to general business. Item 9, consideration of DBE program.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The DBE program is something that we reevaluate every 3 years for our goal. The actual program hasn't changed much, just kind of updated some of the figures, some of the numbers, a couple of the processes that we do internally, but otherwise just the program with the, again, very minimal changes need to be approved to move forward. The DBE is one of the pieces that the FTA requires us to have in place in order to continue receiving funding from them. So just looking for approval for that, for the program.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Adopted. Item number 10, consideration of the 2023-2026 DBE goal.
Commissioners, the DBE goal is not something that we arbitrarily set anymore. There's now a specific formula that we have to follow in order to get kind of what they refer to as basically a base number, and then we would then have specific reasons to do any kind of adjustment to that base number. Again, they've got very specific qualifications for those adjustments. And so our goal moving forward is actually 0.265%, so less than 1% of a DBE goal. That's based again on the number of DBEs in our area as opposed to the number of available businesses in each sector that we may use in the same or similar area. So actually our last goal when this new calculation had just started was 0.0008%, and so the good news is there's more DBEs in the area, but it's still less than 1% over the next 3 years. So again, just looking for approval on that.
Motion?
Motion approved.
Second.
And first moved and second. Is there any discussion? Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is adopted. Item number 11, consideration of the HR policy updates.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. As I'm sure you're all aware, Minnesota legislature signed some bills that resulted in statutes changing, which then means we need to change some of our policies to maintain compliance with Minnesota statutes. So the policies that are in the packet before you, current policy 9.4, pregnancy and parental leave, updates made to that policy to comply with statute. Specifically, there is no longer a minimum number of hours that an employee needs to work to qualify for this type of leave under state statute. That's probably the biggest change within the policy. We also made some other changes, more minor, to be consistent with some of our other policies, like the amount of time, reasonable amount of time to give the employer notice of such a leave. Was changed from 7 days to 30 days in advance when practicable. That's consistent with like our FMLA policy. Second policy is policy 9.15, previously reasonable unpaid work time for nursing mothers. That's been changed to just nursing mothers and lactating employees. Again, the changes made were to comply with Minnesota statute. I am also moving that policy from our current leaves of absence chapter to under the reasonable accommodation in the workplace chapter, because it really is more about an accommodation. Third policy is 9.16, currently reasonable accommodations to an employee for health conditions relating to pregnancy. That will be retitled to just pregnancy accommodations. Again, also moved from our leave of absence chapter to the reasonable accommodations in the workplace chapter. And then it just spells out there are certain things that as an employer we have to allow for pregnancy accommodations without the need for the employee to provide any sort of medical certification. And then anything beyond that, we would go through our normal interactive process as an accommodation. And then the last policy is policy 1611, reasonable accommodations in the workplace. That whole policy was previously under our chapter 16 general employment policies or provisions. And just because there's so much kind of moving under that topic, I'm pulling that out to be its own chapter. Any questions?
Do you know what the fiscal impact of all that is?
It's hard to know because it's hard to know who's going to take advantage of the policies and or the accommodations and or the leaves.
Can you track, I'd just be curious to see what that costs. I mean, we're all dealing with those costs and they're anticipating, pretty significant budget change. And I know for us at the city, it's almost $750,000. So, so I'm just curious what that would be. Especially with a lot of, part-time is the tougher piece.
And
Especially
we don't have a lot of part-time. I'm in the middle of finalizing the budget, which I'll be bringing our preliminary budget next month. And then we'll be able to recognize that. That will also give us some time to get some additional clarification on a couple of other things that passed. I'm trying to think of.
You mean like the other policies that, or changes that are coming?
Yeah.
So we do have, as I'm sure you're all aware, there's the sick and safe leave that is coming effective January 1 of 2024, and then effective January 1 of 2026 is kind of the state of Minnesota's version of FMLA, or I can't remember what they're specifically calling it, but that particular one that is effective January 1, 2026 will absolutely have a budgetary impact. We've just kind of started to look at what does that mean for us and what could it mean to the budget. But that's not fees that went into effect July 1st of this year.
And then we're also taking a look at Juneteenth, which obviously I'm sure the cities are all talking about that as well. And then the other one is the medical leave, and what kind of an impact is that going to have based on how we track the leave at this point.
The other thing too, just as an FYI, that will be coming in August is right now we're reviewing our drug and alcohol policy as it relates to the new cannabis law and whether or not there's any revisions that need to be made to that policy that will come in August.
Yeah, that will. Would that have an effect? I mean, you already have zero tolerance for the statute.
Yeah, we're a
Federal.
second chance employer, which just means that if somebody has a positive test, we go through a process of referring them to an SAP to go through any sort of recommended treatment plan to potentially be released or returned back to work. The fact that cannabis is legal doesn't change the fact that you can't operate a vehicle under the influence. The parts that we're just still trying to work through is if somebody has reasonable suspicion or post-accident and they have a positive test, how do we know is that, with the way cannabis works, we don't know exactly, and I don't know that the testing is all in place yet either, but it's being reviewed by legal right now to try and help us identify what we may need to change in our policies to cover ourselves.
Any other there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries as the policies are updated. Item number 12, dial-a-ride dispatch update and dispatch update.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm going to update you on our dial-a-ride and dispatch departments. Dial-a-ride staffing-wise, currently we have 5 openings. We do have 2 new operators in training and 1 pending a start date. Our ridership in fiscal year 2023, we have provided 103,785 passenger trips. This is an increase of 19% from the same time in fiscal year 2022. And we currently have an average of our current average on-time performance for dial-a-ride is 96%. Dispatch staffing, currently we have 2 openings. 1 is pending an offer. We also have 2 new dispatchers in training, one that started in May and one that just started in July. Our average monthly calls for fiscal year 23 is 7,670. On average, 5,824 those come into our call center and 1,846 come in through the transit center. On average, each call lasts about 2 minutes. These averages do not include any calls that come in as a transfer either through the admin line or through another line. Upcoming, our bus fleet, we have 8 small buses on order, and we are slated to order 8 more in 2024. For our upcoming software, we did just implement a new phone system that was installed last week. Part of that upgrade is a new chat feature. So currently we have Bold Chat, which we are a little bit limited to how many people can be on the Bold Chat at a time. This new system will give us the ability to have multiple users operating Bold Chat at the same time. We'll be looking for that probably in August, September. We'll also be having a representative from our scheduling software company on site next week. They will be doing training and a health check of our program to help us optimize our settings and give our staff the tools needed to do their job accurately and efficiently. With that, we're also looking to add other functions in the software, including a mobile application and online scheduling. And moving into 2024, we'll continue to explore other software options to continue those efforts to improve ease and efficiency. We do have goals for our dial-a-ride. We will continue to work towards our goal of maintaining an on-time performance of 95% or greater. This is done by monitoring our ridership and our on-time performance each month and working with our operators and dispatchers on ride efficiency and adjusting schedules if needed. In the dispatch group, we continue to working on lowering our call hold times. Again, this is done by monitoring those call levels, the hold times, the length of calls, and working with the dispatchers on efficiency and adjusting dispatch schedules where needed. We also have the state rodeo this weekend. We have 3 dial-a-ride operators who will be competing in that. David Peacock with just over 22 years of employment, Keith Drake with just over 4 years of employment, and Larry Dolan, who is just under 5 years of employment. That is it.
Do you have a problem getting buses? I mean, are you ordering 2025 buses already?
I'll refer to Dave a little bit on the process for the ordering.
The ones that we have on order right now have been on order for a couple of years. They're just finally getting chassis through the pipeline now, so things have kind of softened up, if you will. But they've got hundreds on back order, and so we're hopeful. Just the other day, they said that we're hopeful that ours will go online in December. So 5 going online in December, and then the 3 hopefully following it. This additional 8 in 2024, we don't know what that's going to look like, because there's probably going to come changes with the contract and different sort of material costs and things like that. But things have started to loosen up a bit, if you will. This time last year, we wouldn't have had a clue when or if they were going to get chassis or when we were going to see those buses.
Right.
So.
And we can't.
Who's manufacturing those?
What's that?
Who's manufacturing these?
Arbach.
Okay.
we can't pre-order those buses. We have pre-award authority from the FTA. For whatever reason, OTAP won't grant us that same, they won't grant anyone that same pre-award authority. And so we have to wait until those grants are in place before we can even place a purchase order. And there's been a lot of delays in trying to get the contracts in place with OTAP. So odds are, to be quite honest, we probably won't get that contract in place until mid-2024 before we can even issue a PO for those buses, and then it's 18 months to 2 years from there.
Yeah, that was my other question, is can you order 6 buses for 2026 already? I mean,
Right.
the answer is no to that.
No, they won't
Yeah.
fund anything or include anything in a contract that has a PO issued before the contract date of what we sign with Minn.
We've asked them multiple times if there's any wiggle room on that or any way around it, whether they can take funds from here and front load it and then replenish when they get this. And
There's
There's no
nothing.
budget.
Again, FTA allows pre-award authority, so we can do that. The MnDOT won't.
But once we get those 8, our buses are getting old, especially our small buses, but once we get those 8, we will be better. And then if we can turn around and get those other 8 ordered as soon as possible, that'll certainly put us in a better situation than we are right now. So,
How many companies make those small buses?
the ones that we get right now, the only one that's on the state contract is Arbach right now.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Anything else? All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we are adjourned at 17 minutes after 4.